Okay, there are going to be 10 multiple choice questions that are going to deal exclusively with the election of 1968. Okay, 10 multiple choice that are dealing exclusively with the election of 1968. Okay? Then we're going to have 20 short answers. That doesn't mean there'll be that many questions, but 20 short answers that's basically talking about the administration, the first administration of Richard Nixon, the Vietnam War, and the election of 1972. So you'll have 20 short answers that will be dealing with Nixon's first administration, the Vietnam War, and the election of 1972. And then we're going to have 15 names, matching names, that are totally to do with what? Watergate. Okay? So we'll go through this with you today, but that's what it's about. Okay?
What were the multiple choice about?
They're totally about the election of 1968. Okay, and we'll go through some of this with you. Mauricio, who were the Democratic candidates for president in the election of 1968?
Eugene McCarthy, Minnesota Senator, South Dakota Senator George McGovern, and Vice President Hubert Lincoln.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Hey, Ashton, who were the Republican candidates for president in the election of 1968?
Richard Nixon,
Okay,
Governor Nelson Rockefeller,
okay.
and then Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, what was his position at the time?
He was the governor of California.
Governor of California. Now, obviously, Richard Nixon, you wouldn't have to say, you could say he was the former vice president, but at the time he wasn't serving any political position. Okay, Braden, tell me how George Wallace responded to the three major campaign issues.
He really hammered law and order. He hated existing welfare programs, opposed integration, promised to end Vietnam by negotiation, but said if negotiations failed, then military victory would be necessary.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Okay, perfect. Mary, what did Richard Nixon say concerning the three major campaign issues?
He sort of ignored civil rights and said that we needed new leadership.
Okay, we said we need new leadership. It was time for a change.
And then he talked about law and order and promised to restore it.
Correct?
And then promised to end Vietnam by negotiation.
No.
He
No,
said
that was
honorable
Wallace.
end.
He
Oh,
promised-
was it bringing an honorable end to the Vietnam
Very
War?
good. And remember, he wouldn't disclose how he was going to do that because he thought it would be hurting the delegate negotiations that were going on at the time. So that's right. Nixon promised to restore law and order in the United States. He also said it was time for a change, time for new leadership. And he also said that he would bring an honorable end to the Vietnam War. Okay? Emily Keller, my dear, how did Hubert Humphrey respond to the three major campaign issues?
He just blamed for something first.
You're close. He just got blamed.
For everything.
So what did he really say about
He
it?
said it didn't matter.
Yeah, really, he really didn't say anything concerning the major campaign issues. He didn't say anything about law and order. He really didn't say anything about the Vietnam War. He really didn't say anything too significant about civil rights or anything because he was the establishment candidate. He was getting hammered every way there could be because it was his fault that all these things were coming. Okay, very good. Okay, Allison, how many people voted on election night 1968? 73 million, very good. And Taylor Fulfer, how did Nixon do in the popular vote?
He beat Humphrey by 510,000 votes.
Or what was the percentage?
0.006
.0069863%, yeah. Okay. And how did Wallace do, Brianna, in the election? As an independent.
Won 45 electoral votes.
Very good, he won 45 electoral votes, very good. You guys are on it today. Okay, Hannah Vigil, my dear, give me one group that attended the Democratic National Convention that was concerned about the campaign issues. What was one group that attended? What's that? No. A group that came to kind of make sure that their views were represented. That's probably a better way to say it. A group that attended the Democratic National Convention to make sure their viewpoints were heard. Jewel, help her out.
The National Mobilization and
Okay, and what would be the what was that? Moby. Yeah, Moby. Just that'd be easy. M-O-B-E, Moby. Okay, how about one now, Hannah, my dear? Who else was there besides Moby? Abby Hoffman was the leader of this one group. They weren't hippies, baby. They were yippies, okay? Yippies. How about another one, Aaron? Who else was there?
The Black Panthers.
Black Panthers was there. Who else was there? Anybody? SCLC. Very good. Okay. Okay, Taylor Warner. Tell me one thing that Mayor Richard Daley placed at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago to ensure law and order. What did he place there? How many? Approximately. It's a great question. I'm looking for a great answer. What did Mayor Rich, to ensure law and order, what did Mayor Richard Daley of Chicago place at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago? He did place National Guardsmen. How many, you may know?
6,000.
Approximately 6,000. Okay? Shh, just a second. Callie, what else did he place there?
12,000 police officers on 12-hour shifts.
He put 12,000 police officers on 12-hour shifts. And Alex, what's the last thing he did?
He brought in 7,500 Army troops.
7,500 Army troops. So to ensure law and order, he brought in 6,000 National Guardsmen, 7,500 U.S. Army troops, and 12,000 police officers were placed on 12-hour shifts. Okay, Emery. As Chicago police began to forcefully arrest protesters at the Democratic National Convention, the crowds began to shout. What did they begin to shout? Yes.
The whole world is watching.
The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. Okay, Levi. After all the happenings at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, all the violence, all the protests, all the police brutality, so to speak, who was the man that finally won the Democratic nomination for president? Who ran against Nixon? What?
Don't have my.
You don't have your notes. My God, that's bad for a review. Ashton?
Hubert Humphrey.
Hubert Humphrey, Vice President Hubert Humphrey became the establishment candidate. Okay, Hannah Nissen, give me one example of difficult times that President Nixon faced early in his administration, his first administration. One example.
He had a vacancy on his report.
And?
He nominated 2 people who both got, like, down, so he had to nominate a third.
Okay, that's good, right there. Okay, he had a Supreme Court opening, and he had to nominate 3 people before he had one accepted because of the Democratic Congress. How about another example, Emery? Another example of difficult times he had. Emma?
I can't find anything on it.
Really? How about you, Aaron? I know you got it.
He wanted to cut federal spending because he was concerned that the federal government was spending excessively, but Congress said his cuts were justified.
So what did he do in retaliation?
The Congress requested to cut military spending and Nixon refused.
That's right, so it was a spending issue. Nixon wanted to make some cuts in the federal government. He thought the spending was excessive. Congress would not go along with that, and as a result of that, he refused to cut military spending, which Congress wanted. Okay, so there you go. Okay, let's see here.
Wait, on
Yes.
that one, could you also say one of the difficulties he faced was that he had a Democratic
No, that's the whole that's the whole purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, so I should I'll rephrase the question, give one example of difficult times President Nixon faced early in his first administration because of the Democratic Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, Haley, my dear, tell me what Nixon's two-part plan was for Vietnam that he made public in the summer of 1969. He told the American people he was going to do two things concerning the war in Vietnam.
Gradual withdrawal.
Gradual withdrawal of American troops, yep, and
America would only fight any defensiveness.
very good, that's exactly right, okay? The gradual withdrawal of American soldiers from Vietnam, and that the United States would only fight on the defensive from that point on, okay? Now, what was that, Jacob, what was that going to do? What goals, two goals was that going to accomplish for him if those worked, if that plan worked?
We wanted to quiet some of the protesting at home
Right?
and save American lives.
Very good, yeah, it was going to save American lives, and it was also going to try to quiet some of the protesting that was going on within our country. Okay, here you go. Let's see, who have I missed here? Sadria. What decision by President Nixon prompted the unfortunate events on the campus of Kent State University on May 4th, 1970? What did he do that prompted that event?
On April 1970, 31,000 troops were sent to Cambodia.
He sent American troops into Cambodia. Perfect.
Bordering North Vietnam in order to destroy the weapons there.
Okay.
And then that led to tremendous protest.
Okay, and I think the answer you could give, and she did a really nice job, is you simply could just say that he sent American troops into Cambodia, would be an easy way to put it, okay? Okay, Carmen, what caused 9-year-old Kim Phuc to run naked down a road in the South Vietnamese village of Trang Bang on June 8th, 1972?
Okay, so they were fighting in their own city, the North Vietnam, or South Vietnam fighting, and they dropped napalm,
That's correct,
and clothes caught on fire.
that's exactly right.
So you take them off and
Ran down the street naked, yeah. What the events were is the North Vietnamese were trying to take over that village, South Vietnam was trying to protect it, they dropped napalm, and it started her clothes on fire, in which she discarded her clothes and ran scared to death down the street. Okay, exactly right. Okay, Mauricio. I'm thinking about this question. Give me one horrific event of the end result that concerned 9-year-old Kim Phuc on that fateful day in American history. What was one horrific result of that?
She had some burns to her bone.
She was burned all the way down to the bone, there's one. How about another one, Jewel?
sounds like the women.
Okay, I'll give you that. How about another one, Mary?
Was her shin welded to her chest by scar tissue?
Her chin was welded to her chest by scar tissue. And what happened to her brother? There were two brothers were killed instantly. So you need to come up with a couple horrific events concerning 9-year-old Kim Phuc on that day. Okay, Callie, give me one of the three parts of the ceasefire agreement reached in Vietnam on January 27, 1973. One of the three parts of the ceasefire agreement.
They were, South Vietnam will be able to get a government of their choice.
Okay, South Vietnam would be able to pick a government they're choosing. Braden, give me another one.
It allowed the continued presence of North Vietnamese forces in South Vietnam.
That's exactly right. It allowed the continued presence of North Vietnamese forces in South Vietnam. Emery, you got the last one?
The United States would continue to give economic and military aid to South Vietnam.
The United States would continue to give economic and military aid to South Vietnam. Okay, Brianna, what was the cost of South Vietnamese soldiers lost in the Vietnam War? Cost of Viet,
266,000 South Vietnam died.
that's all I need, right there. The cost of the South Vietnamese soldiers in the Vietnam War, 266,000. Jacob, what was the cost of the North Vietnamese soldiers?
1.1 million.
1.1 million. Levi, maybe you can remember this, I don't know. What was the cost of the South Vietnamese civilians? Do you remember? Pretty close, give me a guess. Ashton?
1.3 million?
South Vietnamese, 1 point,
3 million?
very good. And Ashton, what was the North Vietnamese civilians?
1.9.
1.9, that's right, yeah, 1.9. And what was the South Vietnamese, or North Vietnamese civilians?
65,000.
65,000, very good. Okay, Hannah Vigil, give me one example of how many Vietnam War veterans suffered long after the war, excluding depression. I mean, I want examples, not that they were depressed, etc. What are some examples? Joblessness and unemployment. Okay, Aubrey, give me another one.
Drug and alcohol abuse.
Drug and alcohol abuse. Haley, one more.
Violent crimes.
Violent crimes. Taylor Warner.
Their divorce rates.
Divorce rates went up. Jay Lynn.
Suicide.
Suicide. Emily.
Health problems.
Health problems. Okay, you're going to need to come up with 3, so find 3 that you like. Okay? Allison, what did the 26th Amendment to the United States Constitution state?
It changed the voting age state.
Very good. Change the voting age in the United States to 18. Okay, Aaron, give me one example of why President Nixon was so confident of victory in 1972 for the presidency, for re-election.
He
Give me,
promised he could reduce the American role in Vietnam, and he did.
okay, I just put he reduced the American role in Vietnam. Very good. Carmen, how about another reason he was confident?
Because he was counting on 12 to 15 million votes that would have gone to Wallace.
After Wallace was shot.
Shot.
Yeah, okay. He was confident because he thought he would gain 12 to 15,000 votes that would have gone to Wallace, but Wallace was shot and did not continue the race. Mary, how about the last one?
He improved relations with the Soviet Union and China.
Very good. You might put communist just to make it sound right. He improved relations with communist Soviet Union and China. Very good. Okay, Callie. What was the only state that George McGovern won during the election of 1972? Massachusetts, okay? Very good. All right, Matchy. Hannah Nissen, who was the man who initiated the Watergate hearings, which began in May of 1973? Who initiated the Senate Watergate hearings that began in May of 1973? Who started that whole thing? Now, he was the judge. He was the chairman. I mean, the chair. So who's the one that got the whole thing started? Who's the one that pressed for it? Who's the one that said we need to do this?
What is Mansfield?
Senator Mike Mansfield of Montana. Very good. Okay, Aaron. Who is the special Watergate prosecutor that refused to accept partial tapes from President Nixon? Oh, let me go the other way. I'm going to go the other way because I said it'd stay in order, right? Okay. Who was the security guard who discovered that a door to the parking garage at the Watergate apartment complex had been taped open, who later called the police, which resulted in the arrest of 5 men in the Democratic National Committee offices? Who did that? Frank Wills. Very good. Emery, who was the chairman of the committee to re-elect the president? G. Gordon Liddy. Very good. Alex, who is the judge who presided over the trial of the 5 men who broke into the Democratic National Headquarters at the Watergate complex?
John J.
Sirica, yep. Now remember, these are going to be matching, so you're not going to need to know how to spell the name, okay? Carmen, who was one of the burglars at the Watergate complex who agreed at the trial to testify for a lesser sentence? Okay? He was one of those 5 burglars who, after all the pressure he got from Judge Sirica, said he would plea bargain and testify for a lighter sentence. Who was that fellow? Mary? Emma?
No.
James McCord. James McCord. Okay? Okay, Mauricio, who is the director of the committee to re-elect the president who resigned just days after the Watergate break-in?
John Mitchell.
John Mitchell, very good. Hannah Vigil, who was the White House lawyer who pointed the finger at H.R. Haldeman and John Ehrlichman soon after the Watergate break-in? John Dean, very good. This is a tougher one, but I think you can get it, Jewel. Kind of in order, not really. Or in kind of in order. Who was the victim of the smoking gun tapes that implicated him with President Nixon discussing the Watergate break-in less than a week after it occurred? H.R. Haldeman, very good. He was a victim of the smoking gun tapes, because remember, after they listened to the tapes, there were conversations with H.R. Haldeman and President Nixon talking about the Watergate break-in just less than a week after it occurred. So it just blew the top over that Nixon knew nothing about it. Okay, Levi, I don't know if you can get this on your nose. Ashton, who was other than H.R. Haldeman, who was the other aide that was one of Nixon's closest advisors in the White House?
John Ehrlichman.